The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. As Jesus looked up, he saw rich people putting their offerings into the treasury. Then he happens to notice a poverty-stricken widow putting in 2 small coins, and he said, "I tell you truly, this poor widow has put in more than any of them, for these have all contributed money they had over. But she, from the little she has put in all she had to live on." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So again, we find some of the themes that make out the kind of the purpose of Luke's Gospel, reaching out to the poor, talking about the poor, trying to preach out and explain things to those who were neglected in society. And we find today the widow. And of course, if you have a fundraising, if there's a fundraising and people are coming to contribute money, you wouldn't say the person who has contributed the least has put in more. I mean, Jesus stands there and he sees people are coming and putting in a lot of money, and this widow comes and drops 2 little coins. And Jesus says she has put in more. You can imagine how confused the disciples of Jesus would be listening to Jesus saying that. Of course, she didn't put in more. She put in just 2 little coins. There are other people who put in a lot of money. And it's difficult to understand that when we look at it from the world today. Those who give in a lot of money, we acknowledge them more because, because they put in more. Those who put in least, we say they didn't put in more. They put very little. But Jesus reverses everything. He turns down the table and he says, no, this woman has put in more than any other person. So what is the criteria for more for God, for Jesus? It is not about the quantity. It is not about what we have given in. It is not about the outcome. There is something more to it. And it says in the last line, she has put in from what she had, what has come from her heart. That is so important. If we go back to the book of 1 Samuel, when Samuel was sent to the house of Jesse to anoint a king, when he arrived, that's in chapter 16, if you want to read from verse 6, it says that Jesse brought out the first son, Eliab, and said, this is the finest of all my children. And even Samuel himself said, of course, this is the one. This is the one that I feel is, because he's strong, he looks very strong, he has that stature of a king. He is tall, he's handsome, he is strong. He said, surely this is the one. And God said to Samuel, you judge by what you see, but God judges the heart. You judge by what you see, but God judges the heart. Now, even if you come to Luke's Gospel, you find the parable of the Pharisee and the publican who go out to pray in the temple. And the Pharisee has done everything. He says, I do that, I do this, I fast, I give alms, I do all the good things that, I'm not like that other guy, the publican. And the publican stood from far away, knowing that he's a sinner. He didn't even dare to look up to God. And he said, Lord, I am sinful, I am not worthy. And Jesus said to them, the prayer of the publican, though sinful as he was, is more acceptable to God. So what is all this telling us? That God does not look at what we do. He looks at the intention, the heart. There are times we make up time and we say we are going to have adoration, we are going to have an hour before the Blessed Sacrament. I want to do this thing or that. And then you come here, you realize that you have spent the whole time being distracted, you spend the whole time sleeping, you spend the whole time a lot of thoughts coming in and things disturbing you. And then you leave very distressed and you say, "Oh, I've wasted time. I didn't get it. I didn't really pray. I didn't feel God or anything." And God says, "I see your heart. I see your intention. I know that you want to pray even though there are difficulties that you are going through. I know that you want to be in my presence even though the distractions are coming." And God blesses that. That is actually prayer. That we have that intention, we come up to his presence, and he looks at the heart, not at the outcome, not at what we have put in, not the achievements we have achieved, not the achievements that we received, or what we feel that if we feel good about it. That is not God what God is interested in. He is interested in what comes from our hearts. Just like the widow today, she puts in very, very little coins, but she puts it with everything in her heart. She gives in a big heart to it. It's not about what good you do to the people if your heart is not there. And St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and he says, without love, if you do it, even if you do all the charity in this world, but without love, and of course love comes from the heart, then it's nothing. So it's so important that we pay attention not to the things that the outcome of everything that we come through. It is about what comes from our heart. It's so important that our intentions are pure. It's so important that whatever thing we are doing, it is not to show off. It is not because we want to feel good about it. It has to come from our heart. And it is only when it comes from our hearts, then it becomes acceptable to God. That is why it's so important to remember the words again of Matthew when he says that if you want to offer gifts at the altar and you remember that you have something against your brother or sister, you must go back and be reconciled with him. Meaning that the worship that we offer to God, it must come from our hearts. It must not come from show off when we know that we have things that we have to settle, when we know that we have people who are hurting because of us, when we know that we have things that we have not dealt with. Jesus says we must deal with those things. And then we offer a sacrifice from a pure heart with all the intentions, not because we want to be seen, not because we feel we have a lot to offer, not because we feel we are more talented than others. God looks at the heart. He looks at the intentions. And that is why he picks even the lowly of all. Think of Our Lady who was picked to be the mother of Jesus. It's not because she was so known in society, it is because she was the least. And that tells us why humility is so, so important, that we are able to humble ourselves before God, and he himself will exalt us.